Well, it's about time that we got back to the second part, and it's only fitting Rufus is gone, of course. Great timing. This is the second episode of Circle City Goats and Dogs, and I want to welcome back Woodwood Maddox at number 63 and absentia Chris Lee.
That's kind of like he blocked for you in high school, right? In absentia.
It was more of the Olay oops mentality. How are you guys doing tonight? What's going on, buddy?
Doing good.
Doing fantastic.
Have you recovered from your new notoriety, your newfound, just in the neighborhood, everybody now knows you? This is the first podcast.
I was surprised at people who said, "Hey, I watched the other night."
And it wasn't just your family.
It wasn't just my family. No, they haven't watched yet.
I noticed that the same neighbors who spit loogies at me before continue to spit the loogies at me. So I'm not any different.
Of course. Well, guys, last week as we introduced the series that we're doing, we really talked about our origin stories and where our families came from, how they got to Dothan. But you know what I left out? And this is on me. I left out our siblings, our closest friends in childhood. So I want to just start there and kind of pick up our conversation. And it doesn't matter to me who goes first, but just share a little bit about your siblings and kind of where you are in the birth order and how that impacted you a little bit.
Wow, somebody went first. Okay. A lot of applause there. I got the greatest brother and sister ever. I'm the baby, so therefore I can always say I got the greatest brother and sister because I'm the baby. Russell Lee still lives in Dothan with his wonderful wife Pat, and then my sister Stacy Hall lives in Birmingham, married to an attorney, David Hall. And if you remember me talking about my brother, he took me everywhere. Some stories I can tell, some I can't, but he took me everywhere, and I just adore him. So. That's my brother.
Range between you and Russell, remind us.
8 years older, and my sister was 4 years older.
And I told Chris before we went live, I saw Stacy this week in town, and all she did was just shake her head.
She's proud right now, I'm sure.
All right, I can't remember who's other Chris. We'll just go with Chris Maddox. Chris, talk about your lovely Carrie.
Yeah, so I'm the oldest. Which means nothing in my family. The cool kid in my family is clearly my younger sister, Carrie. She married Graham Bishop, who also went to Northview. They were 3 years behind us when we graduated, so they were freshmen when we were seniors. And she's living here in Dothan, and she and Graham both are currently retired and living the good life.
Wow. Oh,
good for them.
Graham was a fraternity brother of mine.
Wow. Very good. Woodwood?
Mine may take a while. No, seriously. I've got an older sister, Rhonda, that lives in Phoenix City. She is 10 years older than me. Two sisters that are younger than me. My sister Sherry, who was 2 years behind me, and a younger one named Shonda. And her Sherry lives in Prattville, and Shonda is in Germany with her husband as serving as a missionary. And then I had three stepbrothers also, Wayne Tadlock, who also was a year ahead of us of me at Northview, and then a middle stepbrother who's passed away named Trent, and then a younger named Jason.
Raise your hand if you knew about Rhonda.
Oh, Maddox knew Rhonda.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Just asking. Of course, I'm the oldest of three. Middle brother Rob was the same year as Carrie at Northview. He's up in Richmond, happily married, two teenage kids. Youngest brother David, when we were seniors, he was a fifth grader, a little short little dude running around, but he's happily married here in town. He's also got two teenagers, and he's a business partner here in Birmingham with a firm. All right, I'm hearing some feedback, guys. Which one of you guys running a vacuum cleaner?
Oh, man.
No? Okay, it'll go away. All right, I think it was on Rufus's end because I don't hear it now. When we last left off at the end of our first episode, we really didn't get very far in our timeline, and that's kind of by design. We really shared a little bit about back in the day when we were really younger, and a couple of the topics I'm hoping we'll cover. If you remember, I want to talk about what made life in Dothan, what made Dothan special to each of us. Dothan was a small town. It's still not a huge town, but it's gotten bigger in the last so many decades. But what made life special to each of you guys growing up? And then I've got a whole host of different locations and places we used to go that I'm hoping are jogging some memories. And Chris Maddox, we'll start with you. What was it that, I don't know, maybe you hated growing up in Dothan, maybe you loved it. I don't know. What was unique to you about Dothan?
That's a good question. Dothan, good gosh, Bernard, there's so many things to say about Dothan. I had a really good friend group throughout my years as a kid, and that group changed slightly. Obviously, everybody's does, with the exception of ours. We've kind of stuck together for a long time, but I did have a really good friend group I went to school. We talked about last week at Wee Wisdom Kindergarten, and then my early elementary years were at Houston Academy because my mother was a teacher over there, and then I transferred to Northview, which after eighth grade, there were about 7 or 8 of us in our eighth grade class at Houston Academy who kind of all decided we need to get out there and see kind of what the world's all about, because we had a very small class at Houston Academy. It was less than 30 kids in it. And so when 8 of us left, it caused a ruckus at Houston Academy. Many people trying to talk us out of that, and Chris Lee's one of the ones that went with us, and Mike Lewis and Dale Armstrong, and I think Melissa Britt was one of them. And I know we had some more, and I'm forgetting. I think Donnie Morris went with us, and there's some other folks whose names I'm forgetting, but Northview was fantastic. It was a fantastic experience for me, and so I loved everything about it. And then obviously got out of there and went to Auburn, and I've always had been fortunate to have a good group of friends, and Dothan, Dothan's just your classic small southeastern city as far as I can tell. Just a good city with good people, and not a lot of craziness going on, and it was an easy place to grow up as a kid, and it's a great place to have a kid now. Now, you wouldn't want to be a single adult in Dothan, Alabama, I can tell you that. But if you've got a family that you're raising, it's a great place still to raise a family and have kids.
Geographically, with it being so close to the Gulf Coast too, that just makes it ideal. An hour and a half drive, give or take, and you're there. Shane, what about you? What about your early days? What did you enjoy about Dothan?
Well, I enjoy, and I didn't really appreciate Dothan until I got older and realized what a great place it was to be. But again, the friend group, school, the schools I went to, I had great friends. Even in middle school, when Northview was having the success they had, while we were younger, with football, that was neat. My family was real involved in our church. We went to Dothan First Assembly, and I've grown up in that church, still attend there. And I had a lot of close friends and great experiences there. That was always important to me. The location, I always enjoyed the closeness to the beach. My dad lived in Columbus, so I went up there a lot. And then, there were times we went to Atlanta. There's so much within driving distance to do that, just good people. Like Chris said, I just appreciate now what a great childhood it was to grow up in Dothan. I'm still here, so.
And Rufus, I'm going to get to me and you, the two guys who got out of Dothan, in just a second. But they've already started rolling in, guys. There's a whole bunch of folks. We got Willie Banks, class of '86, in the house. We got Elaine Johnson is here with us this evening. Welcome. We got Gina Grant. We got Michael Michelle. We got Frankie Pittman, Carlisle Morris. So we got a bunch of folks in the house. Chris, you're still on mute, but we're going to come to you now, bud. To what was fun? What was good for you growing up in Dothan?
Man, I love Dothan, and living in a big city now in Nashville, you really, really appreciate growing up in a smaller town. I love the fact that wherever you went, you saw somebody that you knew, you talked to somebody. If you went to dinner or you saw somebody, I remember my mother talking to my sister, Stacy, put on makeup, put on good clothes because you're going to run into somebody at the grocery store. You're going to run into the preacher. That meant a lot. And as you get older, you think about that. When you're younger, you think that's intrusive. As you get older, you think that is the way the community works. And I love the connectedness. It didn't matter where you were, anywhere in Dothan, you knew you were safe. You knew that the people cared. You could call anybody and ask for help. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. You never felt bad. We rode our bikes, rode our bikes to school. And I rode my bike across the circle, the Houston Academy. Who would do that now? I wouldn't even ride a bike across the circle now in middle school, and thought that was the greatest thing in the world. And, the middle school friends, they were amazing. And I appreciate everything that was there. Love the restaurants, love the beach, right? Love the beach being there. So.
Hey, we got to give a shout out to Compass Lake too, because
Growing
up
right on the road.
on the beach, how many hours did we spend skiing, kneeboarding, and tubing at Compass Lake also, which is also another fantastic place.
And my family, we were up in Abbeville at Lake Eufaula. We had a place up there for many, many years. My grandparents almost every weekend would go up there. Got to say hello to Shirley C. Sends her love to everybody on the panel.
Oh, Shirley.
I love the fact that Atlanta was only about 3 hours, give or take, maybe 4 hours away. Grandparents were in Jacksonville, Florida. My other grandparents were across town. But speaking of that, in Dothan in the 70s and early 80s, we didn't fear anything that is part of today's childhood. Like you said, playing out in the woods in the undeveloped part of our neighborhood until you couldn't see. Just running around the neighborhood with the bikes. But what the beautiful thing is, where all the kids were when you saw the accumulation of 20 bikes, in one spot. That's where you knew everybody was back then. We got Kelly Allison Dye is in the house. We got a whole bunch of other folks that are here. I love going over to my grandparents. I spend as much time at my grandparents' house, not too far from Rufus's old house on West North, all the time. And it's just, I love having extended family in town. And as you guys said, you're always going to run into somebody. Speaking of somebody, we got Tracy Cornegie Lewis is here with us this evening. We got all kind of cougars joining us tonight on Circle City Goats and Dogs. I want to know if you guys remember any of your teachers from your elementary and middle school years. Any of them have either a positive or a negative impact on you. Now be careful, because I know that Peg taught you, Rufus, so you better walk with a fine line here. So it's any teachers that really stuck out.
I'm going to tell you, I had the goat of Dothan. Peg Maddox was the goat of Dothan. She was the only one who would tolerate me, put me in my place during the time that I ate sugar and chocolate. If y'all remember, I was a little hyper as a younger person, and don't eat sugar or chocolate to this day. But Peg Maddox, we had Miss Sellers. Who else did we have, Chris, at Houston Academy? They were some of the greatest teachers that we loved.
We had Miss Danner in the 5th grade. I don't think you were in that classroom. I don't think.
Yeah,
Miss
I was
Roberts,
in Miss
Patty
Danner.
Roberts.
Miss Roberts, yep.
6th grade. Yeah, there were some rock star teachers over there back in the day in elementary school and in middle school. Since we're talking about that topic, we had, you remember, Chris Lee, do you remember Mr. Carl Leverett?
Mr. Lever. Oh gosh, that was eighth grade, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And
And we had
Chris Lee's favorite middle school teacher was Miss Gwen Udi.
I was going to say, you remember Miss Udi? Yeah. Husband was the
married to
athletic.
was Coach Udi her husband?
Yes.
Yes, he was the athletic director, and to be completely honest, they didn't like it when we left. So, yeah, and I understood.
Yeah.
Miss Udi didn't like me before we left, so I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
Your reputation has followed you, is what you're saying.
I don't know.
Shane,
I think
do you
they were
remember my first grade homeroom teacher, or I guess my first grade teacher, classic teacher name, Mary O'Mary was my first grade teacher, Mary O'Mary.
And you weren't even at a Catholic school, were you, Bernard?
No, I was at Girard Elementary, baby. I can still remember the first 3 grades with Girard, then I guess middle or junior high back then, across the street. They were adjacent to each other, and looking over there thinking, man, those are some old kids. I don't want nothing to do with them. And we got
Shane, do you even remember any of your
joined us
teachers?
again. Say it again.
I was just curious if Shane even remembered any of his teachers. He's so old.
I do. I remember Miss Sutherland from she was second grade.
Mhm.
I remember Miss Staples over at Wilson Street. We actually had this in-class newspaper that we did called Staples Progress, and it was me and Phil and Ricky Bittner and I think Cindy Simmons. I think were all had some little section of it, and I had the sports, and I'd stay up watch the news at 10 o'clock on Sunday night and write down all these NFL scores from my part, and then we'd print it out and pass it out. Then at let's see, Girard Middle, I remember Mr. Line, I remember Miss Solomon. Gosh, I hate to name names because there were so many over there. But
Remember, we had in 3rd grade, we had Jill Taylor's mom.
yeah, that's right, Miss Taylor. I remember her too.
Hold on, guys. We got some folks wanting to say hello. We got LaDon McDaniels back with us, Scott Wynn, Barry Hightower from Mobile.
Oh, wow.
Missy Brown Goodman in Brandon, Mississippi. Hey, Missy. Let's see. We got Kelly said she was in Miss Sutherland's class. Oh, this is awesome.
Since we're talking about middle school, can I say that what I said earlier?
Yeah.
Don, you scared the bejesus out of me when you were on the pitching mound. I have to tell you, you were one of the scariest pitchers that I ever faced. And oh my gosh, yes, thank you.
Yeah, he was a bad dude back in the day, no question.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Specifically, this was Dixie Majors when Maddox is playing second base. His all-star pants, had we had a big wind, he was going to be airborne. There was so much material in those pants. I know you remember this.
Yeah,
that was the Johnny Oppert era, wasn't it? Johnny Oppert era? Yeah.
Actually, I think that was the Ralph Crutchfield coach team, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
And Bernard, did I ever tell you that I used to give Chris Maddox the pitches when I was catching and Chris was up to bat? I used to tell him what the pitches were. Yeah.
Why does it not shock me whatsoever?
It's way better than 1,000 against you.
All right, we're gonna kind of shift a little bit. We're gonna come back to sports in just a minute, but I want to talk about Water World, Peanut Festival. This is Babalu skating. Certainly, you guys were there as much as I was. The Ann Varnum show. Shane seems to remember some other show called.
I'm shouting this out. Certainly, somebody remembers the Miss Becky show.
The Miss Becky show was on what channel? When was
I think it was WTVY, and she would have the kids on there, and they would sit there, and she would interview them, and I think then they would show like a cartoon or something for a break, and then she'd come back and just interview these kids on here. The Miss Becky show. Surely somebody remembers that.
Well,
Somebody
we're
old like
yeah,
me.
if you guys remember this show, please comment because Shane is on a one-man island right now because none of us remember this. Did any of y'all have a summer pass to Waterworld?
Every year.
I did not, but I was there a lot.
One of the beautiful things about where I lived in the neighborhood adjacent, it wasn't a mile. It was probably 3/4 of a mile, and that's bikeable right there. Todd Thornell and I were up there all the time.
How many people remember blocking the slide coming
Oh, yeah.
down? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And getting 8 or 10 people and the bodies everywhere. Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
love Waterworld.
Will Marshall is on with us. He doesn't remember it. He's calling you out, Shane. But blocking the slide was a Ricky Bittner maneuver if I'd ever seen one.
Oh yeah. I was a swimmer, so I love to swim. So I was in the water all the time.
Tim Bright, did you ever go to Waterworld? Did you have a season pass like some of us knuckleheads back in the day? Will Marshall remembers slide blocking up there. Yeah, he was one of those rebel rousers. But what was the worst thing about Waterworld? For me, it was time when it was time to leave. But it was also the bottom of my feet would be so raw from just running up and down that cement. Maybe I just had wimpy feet. That's just one of the things I remember.
I remember that. I remember going up when you picked your lane on the slide. You looked at which lifeguard was manning that lane.
Shane, you're always looking at the girls.
Hey, there were some cute girls that were manning they were
Does
lifeguards
anybody-
in Waterworld. I do remember that.
The irony of Chris Lee making that statement right
I
there
know,
is
really.
too rich to even talk about.
Hey, that's just way too much on point right there. And that's not even an inside joke. Half
Oh.
the people watching know exactly what we're
I'm
talking
surprised
about.
lightning. We didn't have our first live lightning strike on Facebook after that comment.
All right.
What about, remember my neighborhood was off of Buena Vista down the street from Houston Academy on Selkirk. And Pam Atkins, there's a whole bunch of us lived on that street nearby. But at the end of my street, 4 or 5 houses down, was all the woods. Now it's completely developed, which was very sad. But certainly, I don't know about you, Maddox. I don't know if you had a lot of woods or either of you, because I know, Chris, you were inside this, I guess they call it the Garden District now. But it was nothing for us to have 15, 20 guys and girls just playing in the woods, just riding bikes and doing whatever. But that's a vivid memory of my childhood.
Was it middle school, Chris? Rick Mason moved in across. Was that right around there?
Yes.
I need to, since you threw me on the bus, do I need to throw you under the bus? I think you and Rick Mason used to ride a 3-wheeler.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Autumn
Moped
Baggett
in Westgate wasn't talking about helmets.
Yeah, I think y'all talked to a few people about that once or
Yeah,
twice.
coming out of Minnesota, fellas. Autumn Baggett Toussaint wants us to sing the Northview alma mater. We may get to that next week, Autumn. You'll have to come back when we do the high school years, and it'll give Shane a few days to get his voice up to speed.
I would love if somebody had the fight song that played after a score when the band played that.
Yeah. LaDon says, didn't Phil Northey? No, Phil didn't live near me. What part of town? Where did Phil? Remember what street or what neighborhood was in?
Phil lived near Page Granger. He lived,
he lived
over
in
there
north
by
side.
the north
Yeah,
side.
he was on the north side.
That's where Carla Hemby grew up, and Beth, but
Carla
there were
Hemby.
quite a few people. in
Yeah,
Northview from that
Elizabeth
neighborhood.
grew up over there. I mean,
Elizabeth,
Tucker.
yeah, Elizabeth was right there. Elizabeth.
Yep.
yeah, her and
Right
Paige
at
were
the
neighbors,
beginning,
I think.
Reed Oaks.
Yeah, and the
my
Marble
sister-
Stones lived on the other side of the Grangers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're right, Will.
I remember your house, Bernard. You could just ride down you could tell somebody ride down Selkirk, look to the right, look for the biggest basketball goal you can see, and it'll be Bernard's house.
And by the way, it's still there. It's
I
still
believe
up.
it. I believe it.
That thing, we tore it down 2 or 3 times, but the last time it was up and it's still there with a chunk of the goal out of the top of it. It's still got those 2 posts that are keeping it. The
Wow.
house will be demolished before the goal will go down.
I don't know who made that for y'all, but it was.
It had to have been some industrial contractor.
Oh, definitely. It was impressive.
I don't know. But next door to us was a General Grant, who was in World War II, phenomenal man. But unfortunately, he and Mrs. Grant's bedroom was less than 30 feet from our court. So I had to go over to Todd Thornell's house if we wanted to play late night basketball because they were not going to put up with that. What about Babalu skating? Did you guys ever hang out at Babalu?
Love the Babalu.
Where were some other places? We talked last week about the old mall, the Northside Mall. That was obviously a common place to go. Later in high school, Godfather's Pizza and the movie theater next door to it. But were there any other places in town that you remember, like Westgate? I mean, Waterworld or Babalu? Were there any?
Putt-putt.
Yeah, putt-putt.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
spent quite a bit of time at putt-putt.
that's where I lived, right behind the putt-putt, and in between my house and Rebecca and the putt-putt was actually a farm. There was a small farm that the fella had chickens and goats and all kind of stuff right there behind us. They sure did.
So Babalu. I loved Babalu on Saturday and Sunday. The races, I would race. I could go really fast. I couldn't stop, but you got the free drink if you won the race. Remember? I had to win the free drink. So funny thing is, my daughter went roller skating last night. Same place here in Nashville. That's just like Babalu. That's right here in Brentwood. Brought back a lot of memories of going there. That was amazing.
Shane, did you ever ride in, or did any of y'all ever ride in the Peanut Festival parade?
I did not actually.
In fourth grade, fifth grade, I can't remember I think it was fifth grade. I played for the IGA Redskins out of the Boys and Girls Club, or the Boys Club across town.
Are they the Commanders now?
Say again?
Are they the Commanders now?
Yeah, they're renamed to the Command.
Yeah.
Make sure we get
our team would have beaten the current commander, but we got to ride in the full uniform. It's 80 degrees out in November, but we're sitting in hay, helmets on according to the coach. Oh, that was you're melting. You're like a melting candle.
So you got to back up and you got to remember the old Village movie theater kind of diagonally across the street from Putt-Putt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I saw the first movie my mother ever let me go to by myself. I saw in that theater. It was called Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And it was fantastic.
Awesome. I remember that theater.
I remember that theater.
Because when they would turn the lights out for the movie, it was pitch dark in the.
Yeah. So that building is still there in Dothan, but it's obviously not a movie theater anymore.
I remember, I think it was Burger King just down from there on the circle that had a playground. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing. You could go to. I mean, this was before you had these play areas in McDonald's and those type places. I was like, man, you go to Burger King and go to the playground. It was great.
All right, I got a sixth grade photo to share with you guys that I think may bring back some memories. Get it to come up. Hold on.
Oh, my computer is going to upgrade. Nope.
All right, this is sixth grade rec league football. We are the Colts. I'm going to point out some familiar faces. You guys see it pretty well?
No, just your files.
Yeah, I can see your files. I can't see the picture.
Oh, the picture should be showing. I'm sorry. No?
No?
I don't know why it's not showing, fellas. I'm sorry. All right. Well, let me try it one more time.
This is called dead air. Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's what this is called.
Dead air. You guys can.
Well, and my computer's trying to update right now.
Uh,
All right,
If I
here's my
disagree,
last
I'll-
chance, my last shot. No?
Nothing.
All right, well, let me just tell you, it was our sixth grade Colts City League team that Rufus and Joel were two of our coaches. Michael Michelle, Jerry Bryant's dad, and a few others were our coaches. And on that team was Rufus, me, and Arnold, and Robert, younger brother Robert was on there, and a whole host of guys who ended up in playing ball at Northview. But for me, that sixth grade year was memorable, really, unfortunately, for two things. Broke this collarbone not once, but twice. So in the picture that you don't get to see, sorry, I'm wearing just my jersey. But if you remember when you played City League ball, if you weighed above a certain amount, you couldn't carry the ball. So I'm eating carrots and celery at lunch each day of a game. Happened to weigh pre-game wearing nothing but my tighty whities. And when you're in sixth grade, that's just awful. But if I made the weight, then I could eat, whatever I wanted before we played. But man, those were fun. I mean, not that one. Playing for that team.
I will say I was on Bernard's team and watching him weigh in that hut, that little shack thing, and it was I want to say it was like a cattle scale. It was set at the weight, and they had the weights hanging, and then all of a sudden, Bernard.
oh, your picture popped up, Bernard.
Yeah, there it is. And then all of a sudden, it would move. I'd get on with most kids would get on with their helmet, their shoulder pads, fully dressed, and it wouldn't move. And poor Bernard would get up there under.
All right, let me give you some. All right, here's Arnold, number 2.
Arnold.
We got Jerry Bryant. We got O'Shawn Legree. We got Mark Fishman. There's old Rufus, number 11, right there.
Oh my gosh.
Chris Whitehead, Terrence Kelly, Mike Andrews, Clay Pelham. There's me. Scott Arnold. No, that's Jerry Bryant right there. And there's younger brother Rob by 3 years, but still played with us.
Is that the team that won the city?
I don't think that was the team. I would remember
Bernard,
that.
you look like a graduate assistant coach in that picture.
Look how tall I am. That's how I had trouble making weight. All right, let me skip to 8th grade. And this one is just even funnier.
Oh.
Unfortunately, there's words over it, but can you see
Fortunately.
Shane Wood right here with his
Look at
little
that hair, boy. Woo.
Oh my gosh, you actually had hair, Shane.
Here's Phil right here, number 50.
Yeah.
Can you tell who that is right there, Maddox?
That's Brad.
That is one of your Supreme Court justices right there, buddy.
The Brad Mendel.
That's right. Here's me,
Honorable
number
Brad
35. We got Tim Bright, Eddie Holland, Catfish McKenzie.
Wow, those
Steve
are some
Kennel.
great players.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of folks. That's our 8th grade. Eugene Singletary right here.
Wow.
Yeah, that's Chris Pruitt.
Yeah, Chris
Is
Pruitt's
Chris
in there. He
Pruitt?
sure is.
Uh,
So that's our 8th grade team. And I couldn't find the 7th grade, but here's where I really want to go. I want to go to 8th grade, guys, because by then I know Chris Lee, I know Chris Maddox a little bit. I want to go to the social part of it because we would get together in the summers and other things. Shane will specifically remember who he was dating at the time in 8th grade. But how about this bad boy? How about this picture right here? How about that?
Oh, I love it.
How about that haircut by the Nomberg?
Ruth,
Of course.
did Ruth cut that? Oh my gosh.
Ooh, that's so
no.
good.
No, I used to go to what was that place across town? Something Chatterbox.
Oh wow.
Where the lady was cutting my hair, she'd smoke and cut, smoke and cut.
That's a
But
bowl cut, dude. That's all that is. That's
I
a
hope
bowl
Carrie
cut.
approved you showing that picture.
she did, of course. That's our beautiful friend Carrie Johnson Kurtlander. That's our 8th grade boy. Weren't we just awesome?
Carrie's so proud right now.
Oh yeah. Well, I had permission. But I want to know, Shane, do you remember 8th grade dance with Robert Terrell dancing with the mop to
I do.
Super Freak?
I do remember that at Gerard.
Yeah, that's some good times right there, buddy. Speaking of good times, we got Michael Rooker, my old double play partner, in the house.
How about that?
Melinda Coleman Coates, who happens to live around the corner from me now, is here. Bud Young, Josh Andrews. Nice. Excellent. Thank you, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Thank you all for being here tonight. We got a little bit more before we wrap up some of this middle school and elementary school years. And I want to talk about the social awkwardness of middle school. You know, we're all
Gosh,
just,
how much time you got?
yeah, no kidding. But we don't have to hit all of Chris Lee's lowlights and highlights. But you know, that's the time when you just, I guess you're going through puberty and you're trying to figure out, you know, where you are in social standing. But at HA, when you've only got 30 odd kids in the class and you've grown up together, I mean, was that just starting to get weird, or was it brothers and sisters mentality?
Dude, don't go there. What now?
No, I mean,
I'm out of this
Where did
question.
that go?
I don't know what you heard back in the day, Bernard, but that was not it.
I don't know. I got people in the comment section right now sharing some stuff.
Oh,
Oh,
Do
Lord,
tell.
I'm scared.
So
Because I
the,
can't see it, I'm kind of scared. But no, HA, gosh, we had Mary Armington, we had Jane Solomon, we had a whole bunch of people. Chris, we had Jane used to throw some fun parties in middle school. That was, I remember those a lot.
Heck yeah. HA was partying, baby.
I don't
So
know about partying, but yeah, it was, you know, you dated and you had fun. They had Now I will say what was different. I don't know the majority, and I guess I'm doing this different for my daughter. Middle school, they had their own. I mean, you had homecoming, you had dances. Did they do that at Gerard? I mean, we had sixth grade, we had seventh grade. They don't do that now in Nashville. So you always had days.
Speaking of that time, Bernard, do you remember we were, you know, 7th and 8th grade? Everybody, of course, that was going to Northview had the Northview jackets. So if you were dating someone, you would exchange Northview jackets and you'd wear their jacket. I do remember
Was
that.
this Greece?
Huh?
Was this Greece?
Yeah, it was like Greece, I guess.
Oh, I remember retrieving mine from Carrie.
That was like the class ring thing. Oh, you want to wear my jacket?
that's how they knew they were breaking up with you. You said, give me my
Yeah,
jacket.
I need my
back.
jacket back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Bernard, I'll tell you this is a funny story, and this is an 8th grade story. Okay. As everybody knows, I might not be the tallest human being on the planet, right? And so in 8th grade, I was definitely not the tallest human being on the planet. In fact, I was about as tall as most of the 5th graders at the school back then. And so when we would have dances at school, most of the girls that I asked to dances were a good 4 or 5 inches taller than me. Okay. And it was just the bane of my existence as a kid. Like, it was, why, God, why are you picking on me like this? And so in the 8th grade, we had a Houston Academy had something called Mayfair. And there was a dance for the middle school. And I was in the dance, just hanging out, talking to friends. And in walked Laura Marblestone. Okay. Now, she went to school at Gerard at the time, but Laura Marblestone is the first girl who was remotely close to my age that was actually shorter than me at that age. So of course I had to ask her to dance, and she danced with me. And so, you know, that's a big moment in a short guy's life when you finally are the tallest guy dancing with a girl in the 8th grade. It's a big deal back then. I won't forget it. So shout out to Laura Marblestone. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that.
She said you are forever her short king.
Chris Maddox, do you not remember going on a double date with Laura Marblestone?
I certainly do.
With Carla Hamby. My date was Carla Hamby, and your date was Laura Marblestone.
That was a
And-
9th grade
and-
homecoming, I think.
Oh, was that 9th grade? Yeah.
I think
that
so.
was
Because guess
Yeah.
what? She was still shorter than me in 9th grade.
Well, and guys, that's where we're getting close to the end of this session. But when the decision was made by the two Chris's to come over to Northview, were y'all willing participants, or was this a family decision, or did you initiated this? How was it that it was you guys were coming over in ninth grade?
He's asking if we got expelled from HA, Chris.
Well, kind of.
Well, you did. That's a great question. No, I really thought, going over there was going to be a great experience, and it was. I have to say I was kind of surprised, right? It was a big place. We went from a class of 29 to a class of our freshman class, I think was over 600 at Northview. But I knew a lot of the people, and nothing against HA. I just think it was different. We needed to move from a sports and an academic thing. There was nothing against HA, but
Yeah, absolutely. The class. Yeah, I mean the class at HA everybody was great. It just was a really small group of folks, and we just kind of started talking about, let's go check out the big public high school, and it just kind of took off from there. And we kind of had the approach of saying, well, if it's just a total catastrophe over there, we can always come back. But and again, like Chris Lee is saying, no knock against HA at all. Yeah. It just was fantastic when we got over to Northview.
And by the way, did y'all both know you were ineligible to play your respective sports in ninth grade coming over?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we did. Well, don't ask me, Shane. Don't ask me why I went to Rick Cleveland's practice every day.
I just remember, Chris, we were down in that hole, and we were going through it. And I kept, when I realized he's just here to practice, he can't even play. I was like, wow, that guy really loves playing football.
Yeah, I was dripping wet, maybe 90 pounds, getting pounded, and thinking, we'll get into that in high school. I really, really thought this was a bad decision. Because you got to admit, you came from a school where there were 30 people in the entire class, half male, half female. So your chances of playing sports was good, right? You're going to play basketball. I was horrible at basketball. A bunch of you remember something about contact, and I liked blood. But you knew you were going to play at Houston Academy. But when you get to Northview, that's like going to the big game. And Bernard played college. I can't imagine the difference between high school and college. And then Lawrence, who played pro, the different jump was huge.
Well, I'll say this in closing for tonight. I've got two last things. I want to go back to my bar mitzvah because there's some funny remembrances of that. And before we get to that, in 8th grade, Shane's going to remember this. You couldn't wear shorts to school in 8th grade at Girard. So about a dozen guys all wore shorts the last day, knowing we were getting kicked out of school. We walked up to Solomon Park and played the best wiffle ball games you've ever seen. Some of the moms came by and brought us lunch, and we just had a big time. But it was a coordinated effort. Todd Thornett, there was at least 10 to 12 of us that did that. I don't know where Rufus just dropped off to, but Shane, you mentioned last time, and I don't want to get out of here without it, but obviously when you're 13 and you have a bar mitzvah, it's one of the milestones of your life. I've got many remembrances, but what were you thinking?
Well, we were friends at school, and you and Scott both. I remember going to both, and I remember going on telling my mom that I'd been invited to this. I didn't know what that was, but I was like, yeah, okay. I remember dressing up, and I remember, the ceremony. I also remember after that, when we came home, I was like, Mom, we got to get some bagels and cream cheese. That is the bomb. We got to start eating that around here. So we did.
Rufus just texted his computer decided to do an update. So he'll either hopefully be back with us in just a minute or two. I can remember Todd Thornell in the back of the sanctuary. I'm on the Bema finishing the service, and he's holding up a gift. He wanted to make sure that I saw that he had brought a gift. Yeah, there's so many memories from back and then. But what was so beautiful about it is we had a party at the club, and Chris, I don't remember if you were there or not, and I apologize not having that memory, but it was one of those times that when you went to the middle school dances, there really wasn't a lot of mingling with unless you were the boyfriend girlfriend. But at the bar mitzvah, for some reason, everybody just came together. Maybe it was the DJ. I don't know. But you just have those, memories from childhood that just kind of stick there.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Well, I'm hoping that Rufus will come back and shortly. He seems to be completely have dropped off. But guys, I think that for our next, we're kind of going through this chronologically, but folks, if you want to come back for episode 3 next Sunday, that may be the biggest laughs, because I will actually have some good photos that we can share some memories about.
And nobody remembered the Miss Becky show.
Not a single person in the comments section. I'll ask again.
Boom, he made it up.
No, I Googled it. I sent it to Bernard. It's listed. Google said
we got Steve Pryor, Faith Flowers, Phillips, Peg Maddox is in the house. Carrie's in the house. Do any of you guys, Tim Bright, Sharon Moody Reddick, John Reddick, do you guys remember Miss Becky's show in Dothan where she would have kids come on the show and look at
Miss C has to.
Please help. Shane is just dying over here. If anybody in the comment section remembers that, please help him out. Help him out.
Miss Becky. Okay, Shane, if you say so.
I promise.
Guys, I don't know if Rufus is coming back, but I don't want to keep dragging this out. We'll pick him up next week. But thank you guys for just going through memory lane, old times in Dothan, good and bad, and it was another fun trip for us.
Enjoyed it.
So you're gonna try to cover high school next week?
We're gonna try to cover next week. I think it's gonna be a longer show. Oh, Shirley C says she remembers it.
I knew she would.
On WTVY. I don't trust this Shane and Shirley. I don't trust that.
I think they used to go to church together or something.
They did. We need confirmation.
The lady actually who was Miss Becky attended our church for a while.
There it is.
When I met her, I was like,
Bernard.
oh my gosh,
there
this
it
is Miss Becky. It was like a celebrity.
Why hadn't Miss Becky come forward and said, "Hey"?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to.
Chris, it only took our 50 years of legal experience to get this nut to crack.
She's missing her chance right now of fame if she doesn't step up.
Yeah,
tune in next week to watch us cross-examine Shane Wood for fun.
Guys, y'all hang on. Thank you all. There's been so many people who've come through here. This is our second episode of Circle City Goats and Dogs, and it's been another fun episode. A lot of belly laughs, and just keep coming back. We'll be back the next couple of Sundays. You guys have a good night. We'll see you later.
Bye.